going on? What are we going to do? We're going to do a bunch of rum barrels for you this evening because we have a great big barrel sitting outside. It's not a rum barrel, unfortunately. It's a Buffalo Trace whiskey barrel that was used to produce bourbon. And then later, in a different life, it was used to age beer. Oh, that just sounds so awful. But the barrel's really cool looking, and we picked it up today. And on our way out from the place that had the barrels, we saw a lobster trap. Actually, we saw several lobster traps. And so what did we do? We bought a lobster trap. So now we have a great big lobster trap that's hanging out outside because Lord knows what funky smell to that thing. But eventually it's either going to be positioned hanging outside on the entrance to the, or it could come in, I guess, is what I'm seeing now. But it will be decorating the tiki bar, either inside or outside. My wife is apparently bringing it over. You could just set it down and move the camera to look at it. There we go. Yeah. All right. While she's doing that, I'm going to grab the newest addition to the catalog of rum and rum-like things, and we're going to toast with that.
Okay, I'm moving the camera.
The camera's moving. Great chance to pour.
That is our lobster trap.
That is a lobster trap. It opens and everything. It's not in like the greatest shape. I mean, obviously it's not useful for catching lobsters at this point, but what the heck? It's a lobster trap. It's so cool. It's awesome. It's a big lobster trap. I don't know if you could tell scale, but that's a pretty massive lobster trap there. When the wife comes back, I'm going to ask her to grab a couple of mugs from the cupboard because we need to have like barrels for drinking rum barrels. Okay, so we got a rum barrel. We got a barrel. We're going to stencil in the word rum on the side because that'll be cool. And that'll be decoration / table outside. But tonight we're going to make rum barrels. Now, there was an article about gatekeeping with the Mai Tai, and I think the rum barrel is a good tie-in to this. I posted the gatekeeping about the Mai Tai online. The rum barrel is one of those things where there are commonalities amongst the rum barrel through the ages, but there's enough differences as well to where you can talk about different kinds of rum barrels for different establishments through the ages and how the flavor profiles changed on those. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to, oh, that's not a rum barrel, unless you're going really, really far afield, you know, like you're using vodka or something in it, in which case it's like, what? It has rum in the word, in the name. What's the deal here? Anyway, so what are we going? Oh, we're going.
Because we've got the big. Rum barrels are big.
Rum barrels are big. Okay. So sometimes, every place has their own rum barrel recipe, which are slight riffs off the rum barrel. The same thing is with most tiki drinks. There's slight variations on the proportions and what they use for them. They're usually not too far off. But some places take it to an extreme. For example, one of my favorite texts, probably the text that got me into making tiki drinks and is therefore the genesis of this show, not this show right here, there's the camera, is Smuggler's Cove. Okay, but if you look up we don't need something that big, oh my gosh. I hope we don't need something the size of the Rancor. If you look up the recipe that Smuggler's Cove has for their rum barrel. Now, first of all, we have a Smuggler's Cove rum barrel. It's in the prized possessions tiki mugs upstairs, and it is enormous. It stands about yay tall off the mat here, and is about that big around, and it was delicious, but oh my gosh, that was a huge drink. The recipe that is listed, and this is the only one in this entire book that has this marker on it, it says Smuggler's Rum Barrel, one of the signature cocktails from Smuggler Cove and a top seller from day one, created by Martin Cate Glassware, the Smuggler's Cove Rum Barrel, or a large 22-ounce brandy snifter. And you can read the ingredients: 1 ounce fresh lime juice, 1 ounce pineapple juice, 1/4 and the last ingredient is 1 dash Angostura bitters, and the rest is covered up by the words top secret. Top secret, right? So, like, everybody that's got their proprietary little rum barrel recipes does little tweaks to them. And I should have put this back in there, but I didn't. So we're gonna feel free to play around a little bit. She's wearing her caftan that she wore to yeah, I was gonna say Ohana, but that's not the case. But we got tickets to go to Ohana, so we're gonna go to Ohana in June.
Yes, Yay. End of June.
Right.
Up in Lake George, New York.
Lake George, New York. So tikiing in the Adirondacks, and this is a bigger convention. Yes. This is one of like the
top three.
big conventions.
This is Foam's fraternal.
Yeah, the fraternal or the Moai.
Of the Moai.
Which is
big huge charity thing. Yeah. It's Tiki's version of the 501 for science fiction.
Yes.
So
it's a Shriners group for Tiki, basically.
Yeah.
We should drink.
Okay.
All right. So I said the latest addition to the rum-esque things that we have is dun 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 Batavia Rock. You're like, wait, Batavia Rock? That doesn't say rum on it anywhere. No, it doesn't. But here,
it's not rum.
It's not.
It's a rum adjacent. In the same way, Kasasha.
Technically, it is not rum in the United States.
Right.
Because it is distilled with things other than just sugarcane products. It is also distilled with rice.
Yes, 2% rice.
Now, what's interesting, though, is that we always associate rum with the Caribbean.
Right.
There's good evidence to indicate that this predates rum. So, sugarcane,
solid
rice,
evidence.
Right. So this is like the precursor to rum in the same way that Genevieve is the precursor to gin.
Except for this is good.
Well, there is that.
Sorry. Natasha.
It has an interesting flavor. It does taste like rum. It tastes like this weird rum agricole Jamaica thing, but it's not. It has funk to it, but it's not Jamaican funk.
Yeah, it's very different funk.
It's.
Will you click my glass so I can drink some of this?
This bottle. So there aren't very many Batavia Racks around. This is sort of the notable bottle of Batavia Rack. It is blended by E.A. Shear out of Amsterdam, like so many rums on the planet are. E.A. Shear is the number one rum blender on the planet. This is 50% alcohol, so it's a little hot, but man, it's tasty. And Batavia Rack predates the cocktail culture by a huge margin. And in fact, most of the punch recipes you see that cocktail recipes derived from, they will call for Batavia Rack instead of calling for rum or other spirits. So Batavia Rack, every bartender that I know that is a rum head,
I'm going to dilute mine a little bit,
has at one point or another decided to play around with Batavia Rack. And so I didn't have any, so I figured I might as well get some, especially because I needed to stop by the ABC store anyway because I was out of Smith and Cross. And what the heck? I can't do that.
So it's very front forward in the mouth, the taste. There's no tasting in the sides or the back of the palate, for me at least.
I get a very agricole nose off of this.
There is an agricole nose,
very
but
Haitian. It's almost a Clarin nose in some ways.
But it is very different than Clarin.
Taste profile, nothing like. Sorry about the look there. Nothing, absolutely nothing like.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to. I'm going to dilute mine as well.
It is very strong.
So what am I adding? I'm adding white grapefruit juice to mine.
Ooh.
I'm just going to swirl that around a little bit. It probably needs a little sweetness as well, and obviously some dilution. But we're not doing that this evening. We're just going to drink this.
Right.
We are actually not going to use this in any of the cocktails because the cocktails are all barrels of rum, not
but it is
barrels
something
of
new you
Batavia
got
Rock, right?
this week, so I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah. 1940s. So 1940s, sort of the height of the original tiki craze, and Don the Beachcomber has opened his place, and he's serving cocktails, and he's got a whole bunch of Filipino bartenders back there that are working as fast as they can, churning out things. One of those bartenders has a connection to a guy that will eventually show up and be the head bartender at Mai Kai. And he's going to bring his own rum barrel recipe with him to the Mai Kai. And we're going to do something very, very similar to the Mai Kai recipe. Although before we do that, we're going to have to get some passion fruit syrup out of the back end, which only I know where it is, so I'm going to have to do that myself. But to start with, the 1940s version is a complicated cocktail. It has a lot of ingredients in it. None of them are passion fruit syrup. Passion fruit syrup doesn't show up until the 1960s, and in fact is largely an addition to the tiki profile of cocktails in the late 50s and early 60s. Up to that point, you are principally dealing with orange, lemon, lime, and grapefruit, and specifically white grapefruit. Those are the primary citrusy, tart flavors that you're going to find in your cocktails. Also distinctive for the rum barrel is the ingredient of honey syrup. So you've got a bunch of fruit juice and honey syrup coming in, and then there's a blend of rums, which sounds pretty typical for rum cocktails or tiki cocktails. But then there's also a whole bunch of additions that come in after that. So there's, in some cases, some absinthe, some Angostura, bitters, etc., etc. Various things come in and go out of the profile. But what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Beach Bum Berries historical find of the 1940s version of the rum barrel from Don the Beachcomber's place. So what do we do with that? Okay, well, all of these are going to be blended drinks. We're going to use spindle blenders for them. And I got to admit, the 1940 version is hands down the most complicated, and the rest of the recipes seem to get a little simpler as we go along. So here's to the complicated one. We start with a blender tin, and then we are going to add 1 ounce of honey mix, which I have put somewhere. I looked on my bar before the show and said, oh no, all of these require honey syrup and I don't have any. Oh no. So this is a mixture of honey, 2-to-1 with water. That's all it is right there. Why do we do that? Because it pours easier and it doesn't seize up when you mix it with ice. So, you know, those are good things. Rum Barrel, 1940s, full ounce of honey syrup. Full ounce honey syrup. I did say this is the most complicated one, right? Which means we are going to delve deep into Tiki Arcana, and we're going to use some falernum. So here we go. Here's John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum, which of course is a little sticky. And that doesn't require anywhere near like a 1/4 ounce or even more than that. It requires 1 teaspoon of falernum. So we're going to go 1 teaspoon falernum. There we go. Dun, dun, dun. Feels very strange doing this without music. I know, it seems really weird. And then, more Tiki Cannon. We're going to go with allspice dram. Yep. So it adds allspice dram as well. 1 teaspoon of allspice dram. How strange. Okay, so falernum and allspice dram. So falernum brings a bright note to it, and the allspice dram brings sort of a Christmassy baking spices note to this, so deeper, earthier tones. Then we get to the fruit juices. We're going to go 1 ounce of lime juice. 1 ounce of lime juice. There we go. And 1 ounce of grapefruit juice. White grapefruit juice is specifically called for. 1 ounce white grapefruit juice. 1 ounce orange juice. I don't like this squeeze top, so I'm just going to take that off. Last time I did this, it squeezed out the sides and got all messy.
Not a feature.
Not a feature. I only had 1 orange, so we're hoping we can get through this. Yeah, we should have no problem. There should be 3 ounces orange juice here. Orange juice is a common ingredient in all 3 recipes we're going to do. So is lime juice, so is pineapple juice, which is next. Pineapple juice. 1 ounce pineapple juice. So fortunately, all of the juices come in equal proportions. Yay, that's easy enough to remember, right? 1 ounce of each. And we're going to dry our hands here. Then it says 1 ounce of light rum, 1 ounce of gold Jamaican rum, and 2 ounces of Demerara rum. Okay, so what are we going to do for a light rum? Well, we're actually going to go really light. Yep. We are going to go back to the beginnings. We're going to go with some Bacardi. Straight up Bacardi White. This is a slightly fancier bottling, but it's basically your Bacardi Superior. And we're just going to go 1 ounce of that. Right there. Got that. And then a gold Jamaican rum. Well, what do I have that is a nice gold Jamaican rum sitting up here? Anything? Let's see, I've got a dark. I've got the pot still black that I could use. Oh, there we go. We'll use the pot still gold. Although I am told that there's, we do have Bacardi Gold, but that's not Jamaican.
Okay.
Right? Yep. Okay.
I just heard gold.
Great. So let's go ahead and use this, even though I am told that there's no difference between the Jamaican pot still gold and black, aside from the coloration that comes from the caramel coloring that's put into it. So I'm told, I don't know, someday I should just taste them side by side, possibly blindfolded, and see if I can tell. Right? In any case, you want a Jamaican that's got some funk to it, but is toned down just a little bit. You know what would have been a good choice here would have been one of the Appletons. That would have been an excellent, excellent choice for this. The Hamilton may overpower it just a tad. And then we need 2 ounces of Demerara rum. Demerara rums are named after the Demerara River, which runs through Guyana. And there's only one distillery now left in Guyana. They produce every Demerara rum that's out there, including all of the Eldorados. And we're going to go with the Eldorado 8 here. And yes, if you are counting, that is 4 ounces of rum in this cocktail. Rum barrels are not known for being easy drinks. They are, well, I mean, they've got plenty of fruit juice and sweetness in them, so they are kind of easy to drink, but they will knock you on your butt. That's what I'm trying to say. There's 4 ounces of alcohol in here. Yikes. Okay. What else are we adding to this? We are adding 6 drops of absinthe. What? Drops of, I mean, it's not unusual to add absinthe to the cocktails, but we've got honey, falernum, allspice, 4 different kinds of juice in here, 3 different kinds of rum, and now we're going to add some absinthe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mount Defiance, of course. And yes, we just restocked up on our Mount Defiance. And then some bitters. It usually calls for Angostura bitters. 1 dash of the Angostura bitters. So we're going to do that. We're just going to go 1 dash Angostura bitters. All right, there we go. Honey mix, falernum, allspice dram, lime, grapefruit, orange juice, pineapple juice, light rum, gold Jamaican rum, Demerara rum, absinthe, Angostura, and now 8 ounces of crushed ice. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of ingredients. And you're like, okay, so Mr. Picucci, if you are trying to run a bar and you have cocktails like this, how on earth are you getting your drinks out to your patrons on anything that remotely resembles a decent schedule? The secret to the success was pre-batching these ingredients so that a lot of these things were already put together, and all you had to do was, oh, I'm going to grab this rum mix and I'm going to mix it with this juice mix and this spice or syrup mix, and zoop, 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 all goes in here with ice, bingo, bango, you're done. So that's how they did that. That's how they got through these drinks quickly and rapidly when there's, what did I say, 13, something like that, ingredients? Yeah, something ridiculous. You're only looking for a quick blend here. You're not trying to turn this into slush. All you want to do is aerate this. And since this is, in fact, kind of a Frankenstein's monster of a cocktail, I think it's only appropriate that we use Frankenberry tiki mug to make to have this cocktail. I know it's more traditional to have a barrel, and I do have a couple of barrels, and this one is really cool. Shout out to Horror and Clay for doing the cask of Amontillado as a mug. But I think for this Franken thing cocktail, we're going to do
Frankenberry.
Frankenberry. We are going to just use this, right? Because it's also big, and this is big. All right. And you know what? That was a good call, because that's pretty darn close to the wash line. Not quite there, but pretty close. And instructions for this drink do say, if you're not at the wash line, add ice cubes as opposed to adding more crushed ice. I don't know why. I just do, right? That's what the instructions say, so we do. Mix those in. There we go. We are now at the wash line for this. So there you go. Here is an authentic, mostly, because the rums aren't going to be the same rums that they used back then, 1940s-esque rum barrel. So this is a pretty deep cocktail, so we need a pretty deep straw. How deep is that? That seems about right. Yeah, we could do that. So we're going to stick, so this is one of our, I think this is smoky gray. It's the smoky gray glass straw from Surfside Sips, who we love and adore. You can garnish this however you want to garnish this. Any number of foofy things coming out the top, or just leave it as is. I mean, it sort of sits on its own. Now, the rum barrel from Smuggler's Cove actually comes apart in the middle. It comes apart actually sort of toward the top, right here, but is actually covered with a hole for the straw. So there's no real garnish to go with it. It's the top of the mug is the garnish for that particular cocktail. So 1940s, let's stick a nose in here. The absinthe comes a little through. I mean, it's not overpowering. You do get this, it's hard to pull flavors out or aromas out of this because it blends together. That's one of the nice things about using the spindle blender is it shoves everything together, and it tends, I think, to give the drinks a little more, well, blending. I mean, in terms of the ingredients, it makes a single harmonious note. They also would have used the spindle blenders in the 1940s in order to speed up production instead of trying to shake these all over the place. So I should shut up and drink because otherwise I may not get any.
And yes, according to Hampton's pitch, the difference is the caramel for coloring they use.
That's good.
The gold is a light tint, and the other one's a double strength black.
So there you go. Honey as a sweetener works. You can tell that there's honey in there. Just the hint of the falernum and the allspice jam do in fact oddly come through. The absinthe, while I get a little of the absinthe on the nose, it's really playing a backbone component here. It holds it together because you needed that strong element, but it doesn't come through. If you didn't know that there was absinthe in here and you say didn't like licorice, you'd never know you were drinking it.
I think the absinthe and the allspice jam are kind of all joined and
together.
playing together nicely.
But I mean, this has similarities to things like the Jet Pilot and the Zombie that have some absinthe in them.
That's yummy.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing this drink again.
No,
so,
you want another sip before it goes away?
Sure, I'll take another sip. Yes, we can do this. We're a married couple, and we're together pretty much all the time. So if one of us gets COVID, the other one's getting COVID, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So here, let's swap some germs, baby.
Yeah. And yes, we have the Count Chocula and the blueberry mugs.
We do. And truth be told, I mean, if you're going to serve a blue drink, serve it in, blueberry. Yeah, because it's just kind of cool. Although a number of years ago, I don't remember if it's GM or who produces those cereals, but they re-release them. They've been gone from the market for a while.
Every Thanksgiving now. Or every
and
Halloween.
and they do now every October. They release the cereals
At
again.
Target only.
Star says at Target only. This is one of those occasions where, oh, I have fond memories of trying to talk my parents into buying me these monster cereals and eating them and thinking they were delicious. So I should buy some and eat them. And they're not delicious. No, they're kind of sugary styrofoam, as I recall, from the last time we purchased them. So, your childhood memories, take them or leave them because they may not be, what you remember, it may not be entirely accurate. We're going to now move forward from the 1940s to the 1960s, where there was a great deal of experimentation with the rum barrel recipes and some attempt at simplifying them using other components. And like I said earlier, some of the citrus components were augmented with other tart ingredients like passion fruit syrup. And there's no passion fruit syrup out on my bar, it's in the refrigerator. So Star is going to talk to you.
Oh, okay.
Because she's not going to be able to find the passion fruit.
Because I don't know where it is. So this is my caftan. It was a little smaller when I got it because traditionally, I'm backwards in the camera, the seam is here, but I just ripped that seam and moved it out. We found it at a thrift shop. It's handmade by somebody and it is perfect colors for me. I wore it in the caftan parade in Hulele when we went in October. I'm sorry, January. We are going to Ohana, and I checked at the beginning of the broadcast, and there were still some tickets available. It is now sold out. Tickets went on sale at 6:30. It is now 8, and they are sold out. So,
all hail my wife for getting us tickets.
Yeah, so that should be fun. And we're hopefully going to see Mom on the way up. So he is back with his passion fruit.
There we go.
And running it underwater to get it open. Yep. So I'm going to run away with my drink.
Got to.
We actually went out.
We did.
Like on a date, like to a bar and then to a restaurant. We went to Captain Gregory's.
It was a date, so of course we went to a bar.
Yeah, we went to Captain Gregory's.
It was great to see staff at Captain Gregory's, even though very little of the staff that we know is still there.
Right. And we had a small group of people over to play board games yesterday. Very small group. We are not up to having big game days again, but it was really nice.
And it was all adults.
Yes.
So we played naughty games.
We did. We played Code Names After Dark.
It's not called Code Names.
Oh, Code Names Undercover.
Undercover, right? Deep Undercover, where all of the code words for code names have, as one person put it, well, they all have an innocent meaning. Yes. 1960s, other fruit juices make appearances in cocktails. Dun dun dun. Guava makes an appearance. So you have the appearance of POG, pineapple, orange, guava. You also have the pink grapefruit coming in the 1960s. But you also get more exotic stuff like passion fruit. And what we have here is I have some passion fruit syrup, which is nothing more than water, sugar, and passion fruit puree blended together. But I was gifted by friends with some passion fruit liqueur, homemade passion fruit liqueur. And so what I've done is I've taken the passion fruit syrup, which admittedly is a little bit long in the tooth at this point, and brightened it up with the passion fruit liqueur. And that's what we have here, the homemade passion fruit liqueur, as opposed to using, Pasola, which is another passion fruit liqueur, but is store-bought. So the homemade passion fruit liqueur should be a better mix for this. Once again, this is going to be blended. This is going to be a smaller format cocktail. This is not as large as the 1940s cocktail, which is very strange because usually the 1940s cocktails were smaller in volume, and then going forward they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They also got more and more sugary, and you started using sweet and sour instead. And that largely comes in the late 60s, early 70s, and the death knell to tiki at that point, which is kind of sad. But we're back, baby, we're back. And now we're going to make you a 1960s era rum barrel Stephen Crane, in his various restaurants, had his version of the rum barrel, and this is basically a Stephen Crane version. We're going to do a little mixing up here from a couple of other different places as well. And most of this admixture is coming from Total Tiki. Sorry about the Total Tiki, the app from Beach Bum Berry, which is cobbled together a compilation of like all the books and the like that he has written, putting all those recipes together and collecting new recipes and putting them in this app. So if you like tiki cocktails, get the Total Tiki app. I think it's still only available for iOS, unfortunately, but it's a very good app. Gives you a little bit of the history, often in a little blurb at the bottom of the drink, and it will track drinks through the time periods. Anyway, shut up, Pooch, and make a drink. That's what we need to do. Half an ounce of passion fruit syrup. Where's my jigger? Here's my jigger, right in front of me. I was drinking this. That's a really strange flavor, the Batavia rack and the white grapefruit juice. So have you ever had a salty dog? Right, a salty dog is grapefruit juice, white grapefruit juice, and vodka, essentially. This is like a salty dog gone bad. That's the only way I can explain it. It's like the junkyard dog of salty dogs. It's very strange. Okay, so half ounce, just a half ounce of the passion fruit syrup. Passion fruit is a very potent flavor and can take things over quickly. It's one reason why there is so much rum in a hurricane, because you're dealing with either fashionable or passion fruit, and you don't want that to be just completely dominating everything else. Half ounce of the honey syrup. I told you honey syrup was a commonality through all the various versions of this. So half ounce. So talking a little bit about this whole gatekeeping thing on cocktails, what I'm finding is they'll put together a cocktail and maybe they don't have honey syrup, so they use their simple syrup or something, and they'll call it a rum barrel. And some well-meaning individual will tell them, well, that's not actually a rum barrel because you don't have the honey syrup, and that's sort of a key flavor component. But the way they're doing that generally is out of a sense of education, right? It's not a you're wrong. It's, well, here are the flavor profiles that are usually associated with a rum barrel, and one of the ways of getting those is to use the honey syrup. And so you are making a drink that is kind of, next to a rum barrel. And I'm not going to tell you can't call it a rum barrel, but you might want to call it a riff on the rum barrel if you're not using the honey syrup, because that's such a defining feature of this particular cocktail. Next up, 3/4 ounce lime juice. Here's another distinguishing feature of the rum barrels that I found so far in terms of the recipes, is that their citrus components or their juice components are all equal measures. So no one of the juices takes precedence over the other. But here we're cutting it back. We're going 3/4 ounce of all of our juices. So we have lime juice. We have orange juice. I know it looks kind of pinkish here. It's not really a blood orange that I was squeezing, but it's similar to that. So slightly different flavor profile. It'll be fine. Pineapple juice. Also 3/4 ounce. See also my usual disclaimer about the fact that I'm using canned pineapple juice, because it's just a pain to juice pineapples, and this is so much easier. But make sure that you get unsweetened pineapple juice. So the Dole 100% pineapple juice is unsweetened. The Goya pineapple juice is not. The Goya pineapple juice is in fact sweetened, so you'd have to cut back on the sweetener if you were using that, and then the flavor profiles would be slightly off. We only have 2 rums in here. We have light rum and we have dark Jamaican. So the light rum, we're going to go Bacardi again. I am working my way through the rum collection. We've killed a number of bottles of rum in the last few weeks, and I have only restocked with those that I consider staple bottles on the bar. And we've also killed a number of other various liqueurs and liquors from the bar. In fact, I had from various places a couple of Crave liqueurs, a black cherry or black chocolate cherry, and a chili something or other chili chocolate liqueur, both 15% alcohol, and I was able to finish those up yesterday. So yay, they are off the bar. So a little more room here. So the 2 ounces of the light rum, and then we need 2 ounces of a dark Jamaican rum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach for the Jamaican pot still black, but I want more funk. When I hear a dark Jamaican rum, I go, huh, you probably want a little more funk to that. So what I'm going to do is, this would be 2 ounces of the dark Jamaican. Dr. Bird has a little more funk than the most other Jamaican rums. So even though it is a clear Jamaican, I am going to go and pour about an ounce of the Dr. Bird, and then I'm going to finish it off with an ounce of the Hamilton Black, which, as we noted from Star, is nothing more than the Hamilton Gold, except that it's got additional caramel coloring in it.
It's got a different color.
And right, and generally the caramel coloring adds a little bitterness to it. That's where Myers gets its distinctive flavor, is from the caramel coloring. Also, what's the other one? Gosling's Black gets it from caramel coloring.
And Kuzan.
So these bottles go back here, right? So we've got 2 ounces of dark Jamaican, which I've done a 1-to-1 split, and then 2 ounces of light rum. We need a dash of Angostura bitters, because apparently that's common to all of these. Turns out it's not actually common to all of these, because the last version we're going to use does a different thing. 6 drops of absinthe. Okay, well that seems common, except the modern versions are going to get away from 6 drops of absinthe, because you can get that with other cocktails. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 drops of absinthe. And then it says 3 drops. 3 drops of almond extract. Okay, I don't actually have any almond extract. I don't use almond extract. I don't use it for baking. I have a whole bunch of other extracts, like lots of vanilla extract, multiple different kinds, including homemade vanilla extract from Gwen. Thank you very much. And I have some orange extract. I have some anise extract. I don't have almond extract. What I do have is homemade orgeat. And my homemade orgeat has some almond punch to it. So not so much as the extract does. So we're going to have to kick this up a little bit. I'm just going to do a full bar spoon, maybe a little more than a full bar spoon of the orgeat. There we go. This is a pretty thin bar spoon. That's not too bad. All right. If I added any more of the orgeat, it would really change the texture of the cocktail, because this orgeat is very, very thick, very unctuous. And, that's fine. It would be okay. 8 ounces of ice was in the original cocktail, the 1940s version. This cuts it all the way back to 4 ounces, so not nearly as much ice. Cut that back. That goes in here. So much smaller format cocktail. And here we go. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to blend this for about 5 seconds. There you go. Again, you're not trying to make a Slurpee out of this. You're not trying to blend it to a single consistency. What you want to do is aerate it, get some foam on it, and that will change it will lighten up the drink just a little bit. Okay, so there we go. This just gets poured straight in. We're going to go with the Mandalorian. Yeah, that's Mando, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Whoa. Jinjarin. Yay. So that goes in here. Or Boba Fett, as the 2 series are almost indistinguishable now. And the same thing. It says to add ice cubes to bring it up. So we're going to add a few more ice cubes here. I'm actually going to add a little crushed ice to the top of this, just because I think it looks better that way. Once again, you can canonically garnish this however you want. I believe that the actual canonical garnish is an orange twist or orange wheel with this particular cocktail. But again, since we're taking some liberties and blending various cocktails from the 1960s together, in order to get this, feel free to garnish as you will. In my case, I'm not. I just want to go and move straight toward drinking this because that sounds like fun to me. Right, that straw is too small. This straw should be just right. Yep, there we go. Once again, so this green glass bamboo straw from Surfside Sips. If you like these straws, and you haven't heard us say this before, no, I guess even if you have heard us say this before, if you want more of these straws, or just to have some of these straws, you can go over to Surfside Sips and use a promo code, which is Lovecraft, Lovecraft, all capital letters, and you too can get 20% off your order of these straws, which is rockin' and awesome because they do great stuff. Even if you don't want to buy their straws, just look at their webpage and see the cool things that are on there, because then you'll want to buy one of their straws, which would be cool. All right, so I'm going to taste this one. A little easier to put together. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 ingredients, not counting ice. That's easier. That's easier.
Some of this left.
11 ingredients is easier. I mean,
so that we can compare them.
Right. Same family. Definitely same family. There is no doubt. Passion fruit is
prominent.
Is potent stuff. The passion fruit comes through in that one.
This one's more dangerous because the passion fruit overpowers the rum.
You think? Okay. I don't know about that.
I like the original better. Because I like the falernum and allspice.
Right. So the other thing here is, I didn't just use passion fruit syrup. Remember, I used passion fruit syrup and the passion fruit liqueur.
Right.
The alcohol content of this is higher. There's 4 ounces of alcohol in here. There's 4 ounces plus the passion fruit liqueur in here. So this is actually like
more potent, and it tastes less potent.
Does it taste less potent to you? It tastes more potent to me. I get the heat.
I get the passion fruit.
You just get passion fruit.
I do.
Passion fruit.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very passion fruit forward, which tells you just how potent. There's 11 ingredients in this cocktail, and one of them is passion fruit syrup at a half ounce. And what do we taste? We taste passion fruit. Now, I taste a bunch of other things together with it. And I used the Dr. Bird to umph the hogo on this thing, and we're getting passion fruit.
Yeah.
Passion fruit. Yeah, so, but very definitely, we have surf rock version of
Game of Thrones
theme song, which, totally cool. Thank you to Los Straight Jackets for doing this. I heard this and I said I must own this particular song. Yep. Sorry, totally distracted. Very similar drinks, little bit passion fruit forward. I might knock it back some so that there's not quite as much there.
I prefer this one.
Okay.
I'll let you have that one for a little while.
For a little while.
Until I finish.
I drink as much of this as I can before she runs off and steals it. Okay, so then we have one more cocktail to take a look at, which is sort of the modern rum barrels. And unfortunately, I cannot compare it to the Smuggler's Cove recipe because it's top secret. So that helps me not at all. Other than there's a 1/4 ounce of something in it. I can't tell what. We've had the Rum Barrel at Smuggler's Cove, but we had the Rum Barrel at Smuggler's Cove before we really started getting heavily into tiki, and I was going, "Oh, this tastes really yummy," and not, "Oh, this tastes interesting. I wonder what's in here." It's slightly different approach to the cocktails than what I do now. Is like, "Oh, that's really yummy. Well, what's in this? Let me see if I can figure out what's in here."
Oh.
Star says, oh.
We forgot to toast the King of King
Oh.
Arthur crew.
Oh, right. So
Rolled through
today,
NOLA today.
today, New Orleans featured a parade by the King Arthur crew. And I gotta say, the king of the King Arthur crew
He's a friend of
is a friend of ours.
And
yeah.
the Merlin.
And Merlin, yes, yes. So congratulations to you guys. As far as I know, that went swimmingly. It looked like you guys were having a lot of fun. So apparently that all went well. Congratulations. Last year you had to postpone and you couldn't do it. So awesome to be able to get it done this year. Very cool, John, being king for the King Arthur crew. Very, very cool. If you're interested in the various parades, because there's not just a single parade that goes on, right? The various crews and the parades they put together. Just hop online, play around. It's very, very cool. Look at all that stuff. In other news, I should do a shout out. There is a chance that a dear friend of mine that I have known since 8th grade is moving from New Orleans up here, which is kind of sad that he's leaving New Orleans, but he and his wife are a little tired of evacuating every year. They may be moving to the Richmond area, and we are going to get to spend some time with them as they make that final decision, and that's going to be awesome. And if they end up moving up here and we get to see them more often, that's great. We'll just have to plan various excursions to New Orleans when there aren't hurricanes coming, because that would be smart of us to do. Okay, third drink, modern rum barrels. So again, what I'm going to do is combine various cocktails that I have recipes for. One of which is from the Total Tiki app, and that is Beach Bum Berry's own Bum's Barrel. Okay, so the Bum's Barrel, which is again simplified. So we've got passion fruit, some honey syrup, some lime juice, orange juice, grapefruit juice, all again equal portions, aside from the lime, which is actually cut back, which is kind of interesting. And that recipe is almost identical, except for proportions, to the Mai Kai recipe, or at least what Atomic Grog has been able to suss out as the Mai Kai recipe. So if you don't know, the Mai Kai is this glorious, presumably glorious, mecca for all things tiki that exists in Fort Lauderdale. I had some serious damage recently, a couple years back, and we were a little concerned that the Mai Kai was going to close, but it looks like they are in fact going to be able to reopen, and it's going to be awesome. Atomic Grog and the Atomic Grog website is linked with Mai Kai. I mean, they love the Mai Kai, and so there's a lot of tribute drinks to the Mai Kai and a lot of figuring out of how the Mai Kai does their drinks. And so what I've done is I've taken some of the recipes of their presumed attempts to match the rum barrel from the Mai Kai, so the modern Mai Kai rum barrel, and looked at that, and looks pretty similar in some ways to Beach Bum Berry's Bum's Barrel, and combine them, and so we have this particular cocktail that we're going to do here, and we're going to actually put that in an barrel. The thing that seems to be the biggest change from the previous recipes is that we lose some ingredients. So we're going to lose things like, well, the falernum and the allspice dram were gone by the 1960s. The absinthe goes away, so you don't see the absinthe appearing in the modern rum barrels for the most part. You do get the addition of a little more Angostura, and then to lengthen it out, because these drinks can be sort of thick and earthy, to lengthen it out a little bit, there's some club soda added to it. And that's kind of an unusual modern take, lengthening that drink out with some club soda. So that's what we're going to do now. We are going to use the third blender tin that I have, and we are going to make a third version of the rum barrel, or the bum barrel, whatever that might be. This starts with 1 ounce of passion fruit syrup. I'm a little scared if we go a full ounce of passion fruit syrup with this. I think what I want to do is, while I like this mixture of the passion fruit liqueur and the passion fruit syrup, I think what I want to do is I want to take this bottle of passion fruit syrup down a little bit, and I'm just going to use this. I think the liqueur was maybe not the right choice to add to the passion fruit syrup. I think it makes it a little more aggressive. So we're just going to go a full ounce of the passion fruit syrup and not add the passion fruit liqueur to that. So let's try that and see how this goes. And we're pretty much out of the passion fruit syrup. That's fine. What this is so there's a passion fruit concentrate juice, which is essentially 100% passion fruit, but it's concentrated. And what I did is I added simple syrup to that, and that's how I get this. I added a little bit of alcohol to stabilize it. Actually, I added a little more syrup than normal to get this to 2 to 1 in the sugar content, so it's essentially stable. Half ounce of honey syrup. So this is more in line with the 1960s version in terms of only a half ounce of the honey syrup. Right, there we go. To counter that, though, what's very strange to me for these recipes is we get more fruit juice coming through on the more modern recipes. So the lime juice is add 1 ounce of lime, which makes it about the same, or makes it the same as the 1940s, a little bit more than the 1960s version. But then we're going to see that the rest of the ingredients, what did I say, 1 ounce? Yeah, 1 ounce. The rest of the ingredients actually go a little bigger in terms of juice. These are not wheat drinks, by the way. I can tell because my brain is starting to go a little fuzzy. So this jumps up. So remember, in the 1960s, we had 3/4 of an ounce of the juices. In the 1940s, it was a full ounce. The modern rum barrels are all the way up to like an ounce, ounce and a half of juice. So the orange juice, ounce and a half. So there's 3/4. And another 3/4. Once again, fractions are good for you. The grapefruit juice, again, is 1.5 ounces of the white grapefruit juice. So we do the same thing. 3/4. So I gotta say, I have these new progressive lenses. I talked about the progressive lenses last week. I've had progressives before, but I'm trying to get used to the distances and focal points. This is hard because the focal point for my board that has the drink recipes and the focal point for the camera is about right for these glasses. But the close-up distance, these glasses do not work particularly well. In fact, most of the time when I'm reading, I just take them off. So this there's a little bit of like, when I'm playing with the jigger, it's like, where am I? Where's that line? So I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to work these new glasses in with the bartending duties. So a little strange here. Orange juice, grapefruit juice, 2 ounces white Puerto Rican rum. White Puerto Rican rum means Bacardi. Yeah, so we're going to go with the 2 ounces of Bacardi. And then I'm going to violate my rule again. What's the rule? Star, you know the rule. What's the
Open the bottles before.
Open the bottles before the show. Because for the Mai Kai, they use, so they originally used, presumably, a rum called Dagger that is no longer available. And so after that, they switched over to the Kohala Bay rum, Jamaican rum. The Kohala Bay Jamaican rum is also no longer available. So there is a combination of rums that the Atomic Grog uses to sort of approximate the Mai Kai's dark Jamaican rum blend. And what that does is it uses 2 ounces of, I don't even have it on the bar. Oh, shoot. It's over there. I need the Smith & Cross that I just bought.
Oh.
Which is somewhere over there. So it is essentially 2 ounces of the Smith & Cross, dun dun dun, which is not open. You want to open that for me while I chat? And 2 ounces of a Demerara rum, and they actually call for, this is the Eldorado 12, which I'm not sure about using the Eldorado 12 for this. I'm going to go with my Eldorado 8, which is here. And the reason that I am not using the 12 is because for me to jump from this to the next level up, I don't have the 12 level. I jump to the 15 or the single pot still Demerara rums like the Port Moran, which at $90 a bottle, I don't want to use that rum for this cocktail. So I'm going to go with the Eldorado 8. So the mixture here is we want 2 ounces of this rum, but we're doing that as a split base between the Eldorado 8 and the Smith & Cross. So we're going to go 1 ounce of Eldorado 8 and 1 ounce of the Smith & Cross. So there we go. This is our approximation of the Kohala Bay. 1 ounce Eldorado 8 instead of the Eldorado 12.
No pineapple juice?
No pineapple juice. Yeah, really strange, right? So the flavor profile changes on the modern rum barrels by getting rid of the pineapple juice. We're going to go 1 ounce of the Smith & Cross. Now, there's also a subtle point here, is that the Smith & Cross is an overproof rum. So you upped the fruit juices, but you got rid of the pineapple juice. So the juice is about the same level. There's still 4 ounces of rum in the drink, but 2 ounces, or in this case, 1 ounce of that rum is overproof rum. So this could be a little snazzy, and that probably explains why they actually want some club soda in here. And they want 3/4 of an ounce of club soda. There we go. Making sure this is not really fizzy club soda anymore, but we're going to work with it anyway. I could stick it in the soda stream and juice it up again, but it's all right. We'll be fine. Think of it as just some additional dilution and some fizziness. The instructions from Atomic Grog say four dashes of Angostura. So you are no longer adding any absinthe in here. All of that other spiciness and backbone is coming from the Angostura, and they are adamant. They are quite clear. You absolutely need to add 4 dashes of the Angostura to counter the sweetness of this cocktail. So we're going to go from 1 to 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 dashes Angostura bitters. This neatly ties in, by the way, well, closely ties in with an episode of How to Drink that we were watching this morning, which is all about heavy pours of Angostura bitters or other bitters, doing things like the Trinidad Sour. There was also a cocktail, a tiki cocktail, which called for, I think, a full ounce of Angostura.
What were the other 2 ounces of rum?
The other 2 ounces of rum were white Puerto Rican rum, which pretty much screams Bacardi Superior. The other element of that, the knowledge base, is that this is a common drink at the Maikai, and they're using their well white rum for that, which is generally something like the Bacardi White, as opposed to using something like the Hidden Harbor or the Plantation 3-Star, which are also white rums, but they're hugely different because they are blends, and they include Jamaican rum, along with some Puerto Rican rum in them and various other things. So those blends would not work in this cocktail. You need to have just the clear, crisp, Puerto Rican, massive Cullen Still rum, and what that means is Bacardi, right? So use the Bacardi Superior. You could use, I suppose, you could use Cuban rum if you wanted to. You could use some white Cuban rum, or you could use the what is the name of the Bacardi's version of the Cuban rum that I just cannot remember? Havana Club, right? So you could use the white Havana Club that Bacardi produces in here, and that would be perfectly fine as well. We go back to full 8 ounces of crushed ice. In fact, they say 8 ounces or more of crushed ice. And what I did with the first drink was I did a full scoop and then about a half a scoop of ice. So we're going to do about that same. This. Once again, 5 seconds, flash blend. This looks to be about the same size as the first drink, so I'm hoping it fits in here. I'm a little worried because this got a little higher in the blender tin than the first drink did, so we may not have enough room in our little rum barrel for this, which might mean that I actually get to drink this. So here we go. We're going to pour this directly in. It's foamy, aerated, just bubbles all on top. Once again, garnish this as you will. Whatever you want to do for a garnish for this is perfectly fine, I think. We got the bubbles on top. I can add a little more, bring this up. Let's see what this one is like. Again, we're going to go with a different straw. We have plenty of straws here. We're going to go with once again, the bamboo glass straw, Surfside Sips. Wow, got a lot of bubbles on here. It's very interesting. And that's going to go in here. That looks like this perfect, right? Straw length for this. I would actually stick a big hunk of mint in here because I just think that's awesome. I did find out recently, though, that apparently mint it has some sort of muscle relaxant capabilities, particularly on the thorax. So drinking things like mint tea relax these muscles in here, which is a little dangerous because it contributes to things like indigestion. Like, I thought mint was supposed to relieve indigestion. Apparently not. Apparently it contributes to it. So that's no fun. Oh, there it goes. It all fits in there. Yay, excellent. And now I'm going to take a taste of this.
Did you show this last week?
I don't remember if I showed that off last week or not. I don't think I did.
I don't think you did.
Okay, I'm confused. No, I'm not confused. I think it's just the passion fruit liqueur element of this that causes this to be so passion fruit forward.
Okay.
Because that is not at all passion fruit forward. It's there.
That's yummy.
Yeah. So there you go.
That's yummy.
That's passion fruit.
That's passion fruit, and I don't like that one now.
Okay.
Compared to the other two.
Okay. And this is diluted. And
This
probably
is diluted.
empty.
No, there's a little bit left. There's still a little bit left if you want to taste it to compare.
All right. So I'm going to start
These are big drinks. I'm not finishing them all by the show end.
Guess what? Tomorrow's a holiday. It's a federal holiday. I can revel in headache tomorrow. I don't have to. That's a little too dilute at this point. The crushed ice is now melted. This is one of the something to remember. So doing large format drinks that have a lot of crushed ice in them often work very well as sort of a group drink.
Right.
Because if they're large format, it's going to take you a while to drink through them, which means, and the crushed ice dilutes really quickly, right? It melts quickly, which means by the time you get to the end of the drink, you got a lot of water in there, right? So the drink changes over time, but it doesn't change in a good way. So, I mean, this is fine now, but it's just kind of meh. It's got a little too much water in it. This guy, I don't know if I missed on the rums. No, that's the passion fruit liqueur that's coming through. That makes that too hot. If I were to make this again, I would ditch the passion fruit liqueur. I would just use the passion fruit syrup. So let's look at the rum evolution here. So 1940s, we've got 1 ounce of light rum, Bacardi White, 1 ounce of gold Jamaican rum. So we went with the Hamilton Gold, 2 ounces of Demerara rum. So the Guyanese El Dorado. So the El Dorado is definitely the backbone of this, and the Jamaican is adding just a little bit of funk to it. The 1960s, 2 ounces dark Jamaican, 2 ounces light rum. The predominant rum there is going to be the dark Jamaican rum, which you need in order to counter the passion fruit syrup, which, I didn't do as good a job on as I could have. And then the modern rum barrels have got this blend of the white rum, but then they've got this sort of more subtle, more interesting Jamaican version. In this case, it's a combination of the Eldorado 8 or 12 and the Smith and Cross blended Jamaican rum. You could have easily decided to go with something more funky. You could have gone with a Hamden or a Worthy Park rum. And if you really wanted to, say, make this upscale, right? So you could do a higher end white Puerto Rican rum or a Cuban rum that you normally can't get, which would probably be really, really yummy. And then pair that with a combination of a really high ester Jamaican rum, like Hamden, and something like a higher end Eldorado or the Pusser's 15 or something along those lines. So you could really amp this up. And in fact, the Maikai apparently has a rum barrel which is like their high end exclusive rum barrel, which is not on the menu, but you can order it, that uses older rums in its flavor profiles. And it would be very, very interesting, I think. I also believe that the soda, the club soda for the last one, really should be a little fresher and a little more sparkling, and I think that would make that drink just sing a little bit more. None of these drinks are bad. This one really needs the passion fruit syrup as opposed to the passion fruit syrup and passion fruit liqueur in there. Kind of sad that I mixed those two together for this cocktail. So I get like, wow, passion fruit. I may need to add a little something something to that drink. Not sure what. Maybe more rum, because hey, why not? But all of these are quite tasty, quite yummy, and there you go. You have sort of the evolution of the modern rum barrel from the 1940s to the 1960s to more modern styles of the rum barrel. And once again, that tie back all the way to the 1940s. Mariana was one of the bartenders, I believe, one of the bartenders at Don the Beachcombers, and he ended up moving over to the Maikai and being the head bartender at the Maikai, and brought not only his own recipes, but brought some of the variations on Don the Beachcomber's recipes with him. And so in some ways, the Maikai's recipes are generally considered to be improvements on the original Don the Beachcomber's recipe. Although I got to tell you, that first cocktail, that was pretty tasty. That was pretty tasty up front.
Yeah.
But, I like absinthe, and I like falernum, and I like allspice dram. And you put all those things together in a cocktail, and it's pretty tasty. I should say, so this is, I know I'm completely running over on this episode. The honey syrup, here's the deal. I just use like wild clover or generic honey when I'm making my honey syrup. Unless I'm making a very, very simple cocktail where I want a flavor profile of the honey to come through. And what do I mean by that? You can get honeys that are specific to a type of flower or a type of plant. So for example, you can get things like peppermint honey, or you can get a key lime honey. And if you are just tasting honeys, those notes come through. You can definitely tell the difference between a clover honey and a key lime honey. But in something like this, the rum barrel, where you got 14 ingredients in it, yeah, those subtleties are going to be completely lost. So go with your cheap honey. Now, if you decide to make a daiquiri, but you want to use honey syrup with it, so you've got rum, lime juice, and honey syrup, and that's all you want to put in your daiquiri, and you want to zhuzh that daiquiri up just a little further with that honey syrup and do something special with it, yeah, a little key lime honey in there, or, oh, I want a little savory flavor to my daiquiri, a little black truffle flavored honey or infused honey in there, yeah, awesome. You want to change your daiquiri up absolutely completely, use a hot honey, so like a chili pepper honey in there. Star would hate that, but man, that would be tasty for those of you that actually like a little hot sauce in your life. So there you go. So a little added note on what honey to use when you're making a honey mix. Unless the honey is a featured component of the cocktail, just go with your clover honey or your mixed honey. Unless you really want a particular flavor profile from the honey, and you're talking 3 to 5 ingredients on your cocktail at most, with honey syrup being one of them, then you can play around with the sort of honey that you've got and what types of honey. I've got like a dozen, okay, maybe half a dozen to a dozen different types of honey in the cupboard. This generic clover honey, and it works just fine in all of my drinks that call for honey syrup. So honey syrup, Rum Barrels, Batavia Rack, white grapefruit juice. Woohoo! Breakfast is going to be yummy tomorrow.
New book.
New book. Right? I don't know if I mentioned. We are going so long. We're going like an hour and a half this evening. New book. I don't know if I mentioned this last week or if it came in this week. Not sure. Don't care. Death and Company. So this is Death and Company's cocktail book. It talks modern cocktail classics. And so you think, oh, okay, well, it's just another book of cocktails from a particular bar. Death and Company is a bar in New York. It is also now uh, a company name, right? It's like a limit LLC or something on those lines, right? And yes, we invested. So we're, but it's actually more than that. So the chapter headings, they're interesting because they've got things like, they'll start the chapter heading with if I can find it, I lost it totally. Oh no. So most of the time the chapter headings start with an article. An article. Wow, this is all on ingredients. Other ingredients, right? So I'm not finding things that I want to. Oh, right, there we go. So it starts with an article, a little description, a little couple of paragraphs written by one of their regulars talking about why they like Death and Company and what their favorite drink is at Death and Company. And then they will give you a cocktail, right? So here's a cocktail, the Strange Brew. It has beer in it, you don't want that. And then the different chapters are devoted to different things. Like one of them was ingredients, one of them is tools, one of them is techniques, one of them is ice. And it's only until you get back into halfway through the cocktail book that you start to get to the specs for their cocktails. And they've got this divided up amongst, I don't even remember, uh, classic and vintage is one category, gin shaken, gin stirred, rum shaken, rum stirred, agave shakes, agave stirred, whiskey, again, shaken and stirred, brandy, shaken and stirred, sparkling cocktails, fortified wine cocktails, punches, juleps, flips, swizzles, multiple choice, which are like wacky out there, akavit cocktails, Sazerac variations, Negroni variations, daiquiri variations, Manhattan variations, and old-fashioned variations. And that takes you through all of the variations and cocktails in the book. So there's a ton of different cocktails in the book, but it also talks about techniques and ingredients, and there's a talk about various people that have worked at the Death and Company, and this is kind of awesome. This is devoted to daiquiris and the various bartenders that have worked at Death and Co. and their preferred format for a daiquiri. And there's 9 people here, and none of these recipes are the same. So that's kind of cool.
And thank you, Dave Fogel.
Yes, so I would like to thank Dave and Tracy Fogel for noticing that this was on our wish list.
Dave Fogel, Tracy Reynolds.
I'm sorry, Dave Fogel, Tracy Reynolds. A couple, but they noticed that and thought that maybe we would like Death and Company, and they asked whether or not we had it, and we didn't. And then it arrived later that day because they did same-day shipping. And well, I can't remember if I mentioned the Death and Company book last week or if it arrived this week. But guess what I've done? I've finished this book. I've read the entire book. Aside from the cocktail specs, right? I've kind of skimmed the cocktail specs to look for things that were of interest to me. Okay, I read the entire section on rum cocktails because I'm me. You've met me. But, the cocktail recipes themselves are almost the least interesting part in some ways because I like the techniques and understanding the ethos of the bar Death and Company. One final note about Death and Company. So the beloved bar Columbia Room in DC that I've talked about on this show a couple of times is going out of business. And they are friends with some of the guys that work at Death & Co. And Death & Company was trying to figure out where they wanted to move into in DC. And essentially, Columbia Room said, we're closing up. You want our space? And so we're going to go from Columbia Room to a Death & Company in Washington, D.C. in the same space as Columbia Room, which, I shed a tear for Columbia Room because I dearly loved the experiences I've had at Columbia Room. But I'm also torn because I'm a little excited about Washington, D.C. getting a Death and Company. So we'll see how that goes. I look forward. I bemoan the fact that there's going to be a sad time where we have neither the Columbia Room or Death and Company, but I am looking forward to Death and Company coming. So drink some Batavia Rack, enjoy that, or come here and drink Batavia Rack because you may not want to have a bottle all to yourself. Enjoy some daggone good cocktails. Hopefully, I've thrown those together for you this evening. And thank you again for tuning in to Lovecraft Cocktails on our Facebook Live broadcast. And you can check us out on YouTube. Yes. Yeah, we actually, I have no idea what the channel is called because we don't have enough viewers or views to get a custom channel name. So it's some weird code. But I'm sure if you look up Lovecraft Cocktails on YouTube, you can probably find us.
Or Star will link it.
Or Star will link it in the comments, and that'll get you there. But I think we have like the first 16, something.
19.
The first 19 episodes of Quarantiki are up, and guess what? She's done quality control on them, so they're better than the original broadcast. So if you have bad memories of the original 19 episodes of Quarantiki from Lovecraft Cocktails, well, bless you, because it means you've been with us forever, and thank you for staying with us. But check out the YouTubes, because they're much better. The sound quality's awesome. They're edited.
Sound enhanced and color enhanced.
You got recipes. They're actually printed recipes like on the screen for the YouTube, which is kind of cool and awesome. So I'm getting better about staring into the camera and not staring down at my own face, which is down here, which doesn't really do me any good. I should shut up now and drink some more rum and say goodbye. But I don't really have to because we got vacation time tomorrow. Woohoo! Anyway.
Bye!
Bye! We're going to sign off.